In 1987, an anime adaptation of the book Balloon was released. It was broadcast on Fuji TV that following year, and the adaptation was introduced to the USA in 1988 on HBO. I enjoy the series because of the characters being likable and the animation being truly good. But precisely, I'm not here to discuss the history of the show, not even my opinion. I'm here to tell you about a lost episode I have encountered. While it looked kind of scary, it at least had a nice rainy atmosphere. Enough chit chat. Let me tell you the story of how I saw this lost episode. I had just finished my day at community base and I was ready for the weekend. When I got home, the first thing I did was go to my computer and watch an old episode of Tales of the Women. I was watching that one episode titled Skating on Thin Ice, which was the episode where Joe finds Amy after she burns her novel. A few minutes into the episode, I was told that the mail truck was in my mailbox putting some mail in it. I paused the video and went to see what had come. I brought the mail inside and noticed I had received a package from my grandmother. There was also a note that said I had received 5 videotapes. I was a little worried, figured that one of them was going to be another Lost Teletubbies episode, but as I opened it up, the first 4 tapes were normal. The 4 normal tapes were Tom's Chance Trek and Other Stories, Veggie Tales, Where's God When I'm Scared, Here Come the Teletubbies, at Disney sing-along songs, Fun with Music. The 5th VHS was rather rare. It was Tales of the Little Women VHS, but it was distributed by Strand Home Video. The cover consisted of Joe marching what looked like a realistic rainy forest. The VHS was titled Tales of the Women, The March Family, and Other Stories. Seems interesting. Maybe they're just trying to go for a bit of a dark atmosphere, I muttered. I made myself some leftover spaghetti and a glass of orange juice, and then I inserted tape into my VCR and it began. It first began with the Strand Home Video logo and it played 2 normal episodes of the show, which were The March Family and Meg's First Dance. The next episode began with a warning that said this. This episode was made by Kozo Kozuha before he was fired from Nippon Animation due to a scene involving dark nature or graphic violence featured in the episode. It should not be viewed by children or people with sensitivity issues. Watch at your own risk. Oh boy, a lost episode, let's do this, I muttered once more. The intro was normal like on the other 2 episodes. The theme song ended and went straight to the episode. It showed a shot at the March house. It was raining as the sky looked over gray and raindrops would fall from the sky. The episode was titled Joe's Nightmare. Wait a minute. Isn't there already an episode similar to that? I questioned. Joe was looking out the window of her bedroom with a happy face. She then said to Meg, Don't you think it's relaxing when rain comes on? Hold on, let me rethink that. Don't you think it's relaxing when rain comes onto the street, Meg? Even the sky looks beautiful. Meg replied with, Why, of course it is, but I hope I can go out safely tomorrow. Joe asked, Where are you headed? Meg replied with, I've been invited to a party as they think I'm adorable, so I'm going to be taking the afternoon off. A party? Wish I were invited, Joe said. Suddenly, Mary, the mother of the family, said, Girls, dinner is ready. The sisters walked down the stairs and went into the dining room. The meal they were having was chicken noodle soup. Yum! Chicken noodle soup, my favorite, Joe said. After dinner, bedtime came. Meg and Joe got into their beds already in their pajamas. Joe soon noticed that she had forgot to put out the light, so she got out of her bed and threw out the flame of the lantern. Or was it a candle? As Joe closed her eyes, she began to have a dream sequence. The dream began with Joe in her bed. The sky was beginning to become bright. Joe woke up and yawned. Morning already? How time flies, Joe said. Then, she went over to the bathroom, which I don't think was ever shown from when I watched the original show. She stepped into the bathtub, which had water in it, and began relaxing. This is the life, Joe said. All of a sudden, a knock on the door was made. Joe got confused and then said, come in? Amy was the one on the door. She said, Meg got to keep it down a bit. She's trying to get some extra rest for her party tonight. Drew agreed and continued on with her bath. After she finished, she quietly went back to her room to get dressed. Then, Joe went downstairs and saw Beth and Amy eating some breakfast. So, how are you guys doing today? Joe asked. Just fine, Beth replied. Meg began to wake up. However, a portal was right in front of her. The portal had a very shocking resemblance to one from the The portal had a very shocking resemblance to one from the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies, which confused me. Joe, Beth, Amy, come look at this, Meg shouted, trying to get their attention. The three sisters ran up to her room as Amy asked, "What is it?" "It looks like a portal has appeared in our bedroom," Joe said. "Exactly. This portal leads somewhere. I feel like we should see where it goes," Meg said. "Allow me to do this. I myself want to be the first expert to go for the portal," Joe said. The portal looked like a real-life city, but it was hard to make out what city was. Meg then asked, "Are you sure about this, Joe? What if it looks somewhere dangerous?" Joe replied, "Relax, sisters. If I'm able to survive this trip, I'll let you know what I saw." Amy said, "Good luck out there." Joe saluted and walked into the portal. The portal then closed as Meg, Beth, and Amy sat down on the bed getting ready for Joe. "What if she doesn't survive?" Beth asked. We then see Joe, and apparently the city that she was Bonnie Lake, which is in Washington. She was in front of two stores, which were Starbucks Coffee and Sprint. This also really confused me, given that it looked like product placement, but I could see it on the episode anyway. The Sprint logo had a 2005 design, but instead of its old design from the olden days. There were also some cars that looked like they came from modern times. "What is this place?" Joe asked. "Welcome to the future, Joe March," a man who sounded like George Carlin said. "Who's there?" Joe said, getting worried. "Do not be afraid. My name is George, and you have just traveled to 2019. This is what it looks like," the voice said. "Boy, so this is the future, huh? Better get some information about it," Joe said. Joe then took a look around some places like a forest which happened to be in a cloudy state. As Joe walked throughout the forest, it began raining. "Yuck! It's raining. I gotta find some shelter," Joe remarked. She then kept walking around while at times getting soaking wet. Joe called out George's name a few times, but he was somehow not responding, which baffled her. Luckily, she found a cabin. She walked up to it and opened the door. The inside of the cabin was pretty dark. Joe found a match on the table and picked it up. There was for some reason a piece of sandpaper on the table, so she lit the match on the sandpaper. Joe put the match inside a lantern in the cabin. The room began to lit up, but Joe found some firewood on the floor. Once the room was fully lit up, she went to go sit on the couch. Before she sat down, a piece of regular paper was on one of the cushions. Joe picked up the paper. Turns out that a note was written on it. The paper was telling Joe to leave the cabin, or else. "Oh my goodness! Looks like I entered someone's cabin without permission. What am I gonna do?" Joe said in a worried manner. A knock was heard out of nowhere. A loud sinister tone played as Joe gasped in shock. The sinister tone also scared me due to it being loud. "George, if you can hear me, something's wrong here. I think I'm purposely trespassing," Joe just shouted. "I think you're gonna die." "That's something I can really do, Joe," the voice responded. "No! Please! At least talk to whoever's going to kill me! I'm too young to die!" Joe shouted while becoming sad like she was going to cry. "Goodbye, Joe," the voice said. Joe then burst into tears and began crying. Her cries were the same exact cry she made in skating on thin ice. This scene went on for about 25 seconds while Joe kept begging for the voice to come back. Just then, a familiar figure busted in through the door. But, it looked oddly strange. The figure resembled what looked like one of the Reaper's suicide bombers with Infamous. Now wait just a minute, they put this in the episode? What is it doing here? I questioned. The suicide bomber spoke in a voice that sounded low-pitched and demonic. "What in the name are you, the Lord, are you doing in my shed? I don't like visitors." Joe, still in tears, responded, "Please, sir, I didn't know this was your cabin. Forgive me. I'll do anything for you. Just don't hurt me." "Your apology is rejected. Time for you to die," the figure replied. I was shocked at this point. They never used the word die in a children's show like this. The bomber then took out a shotgun and shot Joe in the knee. Joe screamed like the actor was screaming in agony. Apparently the scream was so loud that I covered my ears. Joe continued crying, but it sounded like a woman was crying really hard. "Why are you doing this to me?" Joe asked in a really sad voice. Because you violated the law by sticking into my property, the person in the suicide bomber outfit responded. He then pulled out a chainsaw and began starting it up. Joe screamed the word no about 5 times as the suicide bomber person kept walking up to her in a point of view style. Once he got close to Joe, the screen cut to black as Joe could be heard screaming in agony and the chainsaw kept on killing her. And then showed Meg in Joe's bedroom while March and the rest of her daughters were trying to wake Joe up as she keeps screaming. Joe, wake up! You're having a bad dream, Meg shouted. We're here for you. It's gonna be okay, Amy remarked. Joe eventually did get up. Then she started crying again. Only her cry sounded like her actual crying this time. Mary gave Joe a hug and told her she'll be alright. Meg said, maybe a glass of hot chocolate could cheer you up. Amy then said, I love hot chocolate. They both headed downstairs to the kitchen. Meg, Joe, Beth, Amy, and Mary sat down with the cups of hot chocolate. Joe proceeded to tell her family about the dream she had, still feeling sad. As Mary gave Joe another hug, it showed the outside of the March house at night while it's still raining. And then the credits played, which felt normal. After the credits, the Strand Home Video logo played again and the VHS ended for real. I felt a bit sorry for Joe in this episode, but the way that figure killed Joe in the episode was highly disturbing. I removed the VHS and the VCR and put it back in its case. I did have some thoughts on smashing the tape, but I really didn't want to upset my grandmother if I were to tell her what I did to the VHS. After all, it would be a waste of her money. I later wrote email to Fumio Kurokawa about that episode. He said that Kozo Kusuha made the episode and was abruptly fired after making it. Just keep away from lost episodes if you can. The end.